Lieutenant Aaron Voss stared at the glowing corridor before him, his heart beating faster than it should have. He had trained for years to deal with alien species, but nothing in his education or experience had prepared him for this. The assignment had come out of nowhere. He was chosen to care for the Valorian Queen, the central figure of a species humanity had barely begun to understand. There had been warnings, of course. Protocol documents had spoken of her intelligence, her power, her influence over her hive, and her unpredictable nature. But no one had mentioned what it might feel like to stand in front of her and realize she was aware of him personally. The hallway of the Queen's orbital palace was alive with subtle movements. Organic walls pulsed gently, like veins carrying light instead of blood. The air smelled faintly sweet, almost metallic, with an underlying note that reminded him of wet stone. Aaron had read that the palace itself was alive, a sentient structure that responded to the Queen's moods and commands. He felt it now as if the walls themselves were studying him, measuring his presence. A soft, melodic hum filled the air. It was not a sound he could recognize, not quite a vibration in the air, but more like the memory of a song that existed before memory itself. His escort, a senior xenobiologist named Dr. Lirakesh, gestured ahead. "This is as far as I can take you, Lieutenant. Beyond this point, you will be alone. Remember the protocols. Respect her space, observe her carefully, and do not attempt to command her. She is aware of more than you can measure." His stomach tightened with both fear and awe. The chamber opened before him like a cathedral of living light. The Queen was there. She was enormous, her body coiling gracefully around a central structure that radiated warmth and power. Her skin shimmered with iridescent colors that shifted constantly, reflecting mood, thought, and possibly emotion. Her many eyes, tall, vertical slits that glimmered like polished gemstones, turned toward him. Aaron froze. It was like looking into a mind that could see everything without speaking. She did not move aggressively, nor did she retreat. Instead, she seemed curious. The bioluminescent patterns on her body flickered rhythmically, pulsing outward like ripples in water. Aaron felt a strange tug in his chest, a sense that she was aware of him in a way no other alien he had studied ever had. "Good morning, Lieutenant Voss," he whispered to himself, testing the sound of his own voice. The Queen tilted her massive head slightly, and for a moment he swore he saw recognition. He stepped forward cautiously, remembering every protocol he had been drilled on, yet feeling suddenly unprepared. He set down his equipment carefully and began his first round of observations. Her breathing, or what seemed to be breathing, was rhythmic, though the hum of her chamber made it hard to distinguish. He checked her vital signs using his instruments. Everything fell within normal parameters, according to what little was known about Valorian biology. Still, she seemed restless or perhaps alert. As he moved, she followed him, not physically but in attention. Her eyes tracked his every motion, and the patterns across her skin changed in subtle ways he could barely interpret. He recorded everything, noting the irregular pulses of color, the shifts in hue that might correspond to mood or reaction. He realized slowly that he was not just observing her. She was observing him, too. Hours passed like minutes. Aaron worked tirelessly, making adjustments to instruments, recording behavior, and trying to establish a routine. He noticed small details, the way the Queen's bioluminescence brightened when he spoke softly, or how her coils shifted slightly when he moved closer. No one had prepared him for the level of interaction that could exist without words. By mid-cycle, fatigue began to press against him, but he refused to leave. He had to understand her to connect in some small way. He tried a gentle experiment, one he had read about but never attempted. He hummed a simple tune from a human song, just a few notes. The Queen's colors shifted almost immediately, settling into a slow, warm pulse that seemed to match the rhythm of his humming. He held his breath. Could it be? Was she responding to him, not just observing him? He tried again, varying the tone, the tempo. Each time her body reacted subtly but unmistakably. It was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. For the first time, he felt the weight of human curiosity and intelligence against the vast unknown. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. A low ripple of light passed across the Queen's body in a pattern that seemed directed, not random, not instinctual. He interpreted it as a message of sorts, though he had no frame of reference. He raised a hand almost instinctively and touched a panel of living crystal near him. The pattern flared brighter this time. His mind raced. She was communicating, not with speech, not with sound, but with light, rhythm, and attention. Aaron realized that he had crossed a boundary. He was no longer a passive observer. He was part of her world and she was part of his. The hum in the chamber seemed to swell, resonating with his heartbeat. The palace walls pulsed in tandem with the queen's shifts, a living organism responding to both her and him. When he finally paused to take a breath, he felt a presence behind him, not threatening but undeniably aware. A drone, one of the smaller Valorian caretakers, hovered silently. It observed him, perhaps judging whether he was worthy to remain in the queen's presence. Aaron met its gaze, holding steady. After a tense moment, it backed away, almost deferentially. He sank onto a platform near the queen, trying to steady his thoughts. His mind raced with questions. How much did she understand? Was she truly intelligent in the way humans understood intelligence, or was it a kind of awareness beyond him? Could she form a bond? Could she feel something resembling emotion? No one had warned him that the queen might do more than observe, that she might care in her own alien way. As cycles passed, Aaron established small routines. He checked the queen's vital patterns, adjusted her resting environments, and introduced subtle stimuli, a pattern of soft lights, a vibration frequency, and even human sense in minute doses. Each time she responded in ways that suggested preference or disapproval. He began to sense a rhythm to her moods, a cadence that felt almost like dialogue, though it had no words. At one point, as he leaned over to adjust a monitoring device, a coil of her massive form shifted closer, brushing against his shoulder in a gesture that seemed deliberate. Aaron froze, startled. The air seemed charged. He realized with a start that this was not aggression, it was attention. The queen had sought him out, chosen to interact with him. A shiver ran down his spine. He was alone in the chamber, yet he had never felt more watched or more seen. Night cycles came and went, though the queen did not sleep in any way he could recognize. Instead, she pulsed and shifted in a slow, mesmerizing pattern, watching, always watching. Aaron found himself adjusting to her presence, feeling more attuned to her rhythms than he expected. He began to anticipate her reactions, noting patterns in her color pulses, her coil movements, and her subtle hums. It was during one particularly quiet cycle that he noticed something extraordinary. The queen's colors shifted rapidly, almost frantically, and then settled into a slow, steady rhythm that mirrored his own heartbeat. He had not realized he had been holding his breath. Slowly, carefully, he reached out toward her, not with instruments or experiments, but with intention. Her nearest coil hovered just above his hand. The air between them shimmered, almost electric, and he felt an undeniable connection, fragile yet profound. Aaron leaned back slightly, unsure what he had just witnessed. The queen's pulse slowed, as if acknowledging him. For the first time, he felt a sense of companionship, not friendship in human terms, but a recognition of his presence, his mind, and perhaps even his spirit. He realized that no training, no protocol, no precaution could have prepared him for this. He had entered a world entirely alien and found that human presence itself could matter. As he sat there, exhausted but exhilarated, Aaron understood the truth of his assignment. Caring for the queen was not about medicine or observation or even control. It was about presence, understanding, and patience. He had been warned about her intelligence, but no one had warned him about the depth of awareness and subtle emotion that could exist within her. For the first time, he smiled, feeling a sense of purpose unlike anything he had known. The queen's bioluminescent patterns shimmered gently, almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging his thoughts. Aaron did not know what tomorrow would bring or what challenges lay ahead, but he knew one thing. He was part of something far greater than himself, a bridge between human curiosity and alien consciousness, and he would not turn away. The hum of the chamber filled his ears again, steady and soft, and he felt it as much as he heard it. In that living cathedral of light, he realized that this assignment was not punishment or duty. It was an opportunity to learn, to connect, and perhaps to change the way humans were seen in the galaxy. As the first cycle ended, Aaron leaned back, closing his eyes for a brief rest. The queen's glow dimmed slightly, settling into a calm pattern. Tomorrow, he would begin again. And tomorrow, he knew, he would see more than ever before the astonishing potential of humans when faced with the vast, uncharted minds of other species. He had entered the chamber as a caretaker. He would leave, eventually, changed in ways he could not yet imagine. And the queen, in her vast and luminous form, had already begun to notice him in ways that no human or alien could have predicted. Aaron woke to the soft glow of the queen's chamber. The colors of her skin shifted in gentle waves, a language he was beginning to understand in fragments. He rubbed his eyes, still adjusting to the surreal beauty of the living palace. The night cycles of the Valorians were unlike anything human biology could process, and yet he felt no exhaustion in the same way. There was a strange harmony here, a rhythm that pulsed through the walls and through the queen herself. He rose carefully, mindful not to disturb her coils. Yesterday's first contact had left him both awed and anxious. The queen had been aware of him in ways that defied all logic, and he could still feel the subtle energy of her observation lingering. He had begun to record patterns, noting changes in bioluminescence, vibrations, and subtle movements, hoping to decode the meaning. Today, he decided, he would attempt a more deliberate form of communication. Protocols allowed for observation, not interaction beyond monitoring, but something inside him insisted he try. He retrieved a small device from his satchel, a simple pattern projector capable of displaying basic geometric shapes in varying colors. He had designed it for diagnostic purposes, but he hoped the queen might perceive it as a gesture, an offering, rather than a test. He activated the projector. Soft circles expanded in concentric waves across the chamber floor. The queen's eyes followed the light, her body's patterns changing in response. Aaron leaned closer, trying to sense her mood. There was curiosity in the movement of her coils, a pulse that seemed almost like a heartbeat. He adjusted the speed of the circles, letting them ripple faster, then slower. She mirrored the tempo, and for a moment he felt as though they were dancing, a silent, delicate exchange between human and alien intelligence. A small ripple of pride warmed him. If he had learned anything in his years of training, it was that humans could improvise in ways other species could not predict. Every adjustment he made was guided by intuition as much as logic. The queen responded in ways that suggested understanding, though he could not be certain. Hours passed, and Aaron introduced small changes. A subtle vibration in the floor, gentle shifts in light intensity, even traces of human sense, carefully measured. Each time she reacted, sometimes with sudden flares of color, sometimes with a slow, steady pulse that seemed almost approving. He began to feel that he was not just observing her, he was becoming part of her world. During a brief cycle of quiet, Aaron noticed a subtle movement of one of the queen's coils. It hovered closer, then recoiled slightly, almost as if testing his reaction. Aaron held still, remembering the warnings about startling her. Instead, he lowered his hand gently, letting it hover near the coil. The queen's bioluminescent patterns flared softly and then dimmed, settling into a calm rhythm. A shiver ran through him. This was more than awareness, this was interaction and perhaps even trust. Later, human staff arrived to check on the progress. They were cautious, speaking in low voices that Aaron barely heard. He had already noticed that other humans were unnerving her, and their presence seemed to disrupt the subtle patterns they had begun to share. Aaron made a quick decision. He stepped forward and signaled them to maintain distance. "This is delicate," he said softly. "She is not a machine. She is aware of our intentions." Too much interference could be dangerous. He had begun to understand that his role was not just caretaker, but mediator, a bridge between human logic and alien perception. By mid-cycle, Aaron felt a growing connection. He experimented with music, playing soft, simple melodies through a compact device. The queen's body responded immediately, her patterns brightening and pulsing in time with the rhythm. He tried varying the tempo, changing the key slightly, and observed how she adapted. It was not mimicry. She was responding creatively, interacting with him in a way that suggested comprehension. It was then that he noticed a subtle change in her attention. When he paused, she would slow her pulses, almost as if waiting for him. When he resumed, she responded instantly. A realization struck him. The queen was aware of him as an individual, not as a human, not as a caretaker, but as Aaron Voss, uniquely present in her world. The hours became days, and Aaron began to establish routines that felt natural to both him and the queen. He introduced new stimuli gradually, soft air currents, faint human scents, and gentle light shifts that mimicked Earth sunsets. Each innovation was met with subtle responses, color flares, coil movements, even slight vocalizations that resonated through the chamber. He had no way to know if these were sounds in the human sense, but they carried meaning. One quiet cycle, as he adjusted a monitor near her central coil, the queen did something extraordinary. She shifted one of her massive appendages closer to him, gently brushing his shoulder. Aaron froze, feeling a shock of awareness. This was not aggression, nor was it merely curiosity, it was deliberate. She was seeking contact. He withdrew slightly, unsure of what to do, and then slowly extended a hand. Her coil paused, hovering just above it as if testing his intention. Aaron held his breath. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his palm to meet hers. The energy in the chamber was palpable, an invisible connection that hummed between them. His instruments could not measure it, yet he felt it deeply: trust, recognition, something akin to acknowledgement. Aaron leaned back, letting the moment settle. The queen's colors dimmed to a calm, steady glow, and the hum of the chamber shifted into a gentle, soothing rhythm. He realized, with a mixture of awe and humility, that he had begun to form a bond with a creature whose intellect and awareness dwarfed anything humanity had encountered. The next few cycles were spent refining this connection. Aaron introduced small experiments, subtle patterns of movement and light, testing the queen's responses. He found that she began to anticipate his actions, adjusting her coils or colors in advance. It was as if she were learning from him even as he learned from her. He recorded everything meticulously, knowing that these observations could redefine human understanding of alien intelligence. But it was not just learning, it was companionship. Aaron found himself thinking about her when he was not in the chamber, wondering how she perceived him, what she might be thinking in the vast stretches of consciousness that humans could barely imagine. He began speaking softly, narrating his actions, telling her about Earth, about human life. It was an experiment, yes, but also a bridge, a way to connect across the impossible gulf between species. One evening, a sudden ripple of color and light startled him. The queen's coils moved rapidly, responding to an unseen stimulus. A small drone had malfunctioned nearby, buzzing too close. Aaron moved quickly, calming the situation, speaking softly to both the drone and the queen. Her colors slowed, then brightened in a pattern that suggested relief or approval. He realized that she was capable of forming judgments, of recognizing intent and distinguishing friend from threat. As the days passed, Aaron began to understand something extraordinary. The queen was not just aware. She was learning from him, responding to him in ways no one had anticipated. He was discovering the subtle power of human empathy, creativity, and adaptability. These were qualities the Valorians could not predict, abilities that allowed him to connect where technology alone would fail. One quiet cycle, as he rested near her coils, he dared a thought. What if she could feel something akin to emotion? Not in human terms, perhaps, but a recognition, an attachment. He reached out again, touching her skin lightly. Her bioluminescence flared in response, a warm, steady glow that made his heart race. It was deliberate, thoughtful, and he could not deny it, intimate in a way that transcended words. He leaned back, letting the moment breathe. No one had warned him that caring for the queen would involve navigating an entirely new form of awareness, that his presence could matter in ways far beyond simple observation. He had come to care for her, yes, but he had also become a part of her perception, a figure in the vast consciousness that dominated the hive. Aaron understood then that this was only the beginning. The bond they were forming would be tested, challenged by the hive, by human authority, and perhaps by the queen herself. Yet he felt ready. For the first time, he realized that humans could touch the unknown not through strength, but through thought, empathy, and courage. He had been chosen not just to care for her body, but to engage with her mind, to navigate a connection that defied expectations. The cycle ended with a gentle shift of light and a soft pulse through the chamber. Aaron closed his eyes briefly, feeling the queen's presence around him. Tomorrow would bring new experiments, new attempts at communication, and perhaps new surprises. He felt excitement, not fear. He was no longer a mere observer. He was a participant in a relationship that could redefine humanity's understanding of intelligence, trust, and connection. And somewhere deep within the pulsing patterns of light and color, Aaron sensed that the queen, too, was aware of him. Not as a human, not as a caretaker, but as something uniquely significant, a presence that mattered. For the first time, he smiled fully, knowing that he had entered a story larger than himself. A journey of discovery that would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human courage. He had begun to understand that this was not just science, not just duty. It was the start of a bond that could change the course of human-alien relations forever. The days had grown longer in the Queen's chamber, though time had a strange meaning here. Aaron could no longer tell if it was the third or fifth cycle since he had arrived. His focus, however, remained unwavering. The Queen had begun responding to his routines with increasing complexity. Each day revealed new patterns, new rhythms that suggested she was learning from him even as he learned from her. It was during one of these cycles that Aaron first noticed a change in the hive itself. Drones moved more cautiously around the Queen, adjusting their positions in a way that suggested heightened alertness. Some of the younger drones hesitated when performing routine maintenance, their bioluminescent signals flickering in irregular sequences. Aaron recorded the behavior meticulously. He understood immediately that her growing attachment, or focus, on him was affecting the entire hive. This realization brought both pride and concern. On one hand, it demonstrated the uniqueness of his connection to the queen. On the other, he feared that other humans might misinterpret these changes. The queen's moods were subtle, expressed in pulses and color shifts, but the hive responded instinctively, amplifying her emotional states. If anyone underestimated this, it could lead to misunderstandings or accidents. Later, as he adjusted monitoring devices near her central coil, he noticed a subtle ripple in her colors. It was different from curiosity or calm. This was focus, intensity, directed toward him alone. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her. The hum in the chamber deepened, vibrating softly against the walls and floor. Aaron had come to recognize it as a form of acknowledgement, a silent communication. She was aware of his thoughts as much as he was aware of hers. The first incident occurred when a maintenance drone malfunctioned. It flew erratically near the queen, its lights blinking chaotically. Aaron instinctively moved to intervene, but before he could act, the queen's coils shifted with astonishing speed. They extended, gently guiding the drone away from sensitive areas. The hum intensified, a soft warning or correction, and the drone adjusted instantly, as if obeying her subtle instructions. Aaron stared in awe. It was one thing to see her respond to him, but quite another to witness the queen's direct influence on her hive, guided by her awareness of him. He realized that his presence was changing not only the queen, but the entire social structure of her species. This thought both thrilled and unsettled him. The next cycles brought more challenges. Human supervisors arrived, eager to evaluate the queen's behavior and Aaron's progress. They were cautious, their expressions guarded. Aaron briefed them as best he could, emphasizing the queen's sensitivity and the importance of respecting her responses. "She is not a machine," he said firmly. "She is aware. She responds to intent. Too much interference will disrupt her equilibrium." Aaron realized immediately that their presence could jeopardize the bond he had begun to establish. During their visit, the queen's bioluminescence shifted rapidly. Her coils tightened slightly around the central chamber, forming protective loops. She did not act aggressively, but the intensity of her attention was unmistakable. Aaron felt the hum in the chamber deepen, vibrating in his chest. He stepped forward, placing a hand gently in the path of her nearest coil. "It's all right," he whispered. "They mean no harm." It was a lesson in human empathy and emotional intelligence, skills that no protocol could replace. After the supervisors left, Aaron took a moment to observe the queen. Her colors pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, a sign of calm, but he could detect undercurrents of thought. She was processing the intrusion, evaluating him, and maintaining her connection to him even as the hive stabilized. Aaron felt a profound respect for her. She was not only intelligent, but capable of judgment, of prioritizing relationships and trust over instinct. The next challenge came unexpectedly. One of the central communication nodes in the palace experienced a minor failure, causing temporary disruption in the queen's ability to coordinate with distant sections of her hive. Drones began behaving erratically, and the queen's attention sharpened immediately. Aaron recognized the potential danger. He could either follow strict human protocols and wait for engineers, or he could act, relying on his understanding of her patterns. He chose the latter. Carefully, he approached the central coil, speaking softly as he adjusted the device. He mimicked the pulses she had used to signal him earlier, integrating light and movement into his actions. Slowly, the hive stabilized. The queen's bioluminescence flared briefly, almost like applause, then settled into calm. Aaron exhaled, realizing that his human adaptability and ingenuity had compensated for a failure that no protocol could have predicted. The experience reinforced a growing truth. Humans had abilities that were unpredictable, flexible, and capable of bridging gaps even advanced species could not foresee. Days later, Aaron experimented with a new approach. He introduced subtle environmental cues, a slow rotation of light patterns that mimicked the cycles of Earth-Sun, gentle vibrations through the chamber floor, and a soft frequency that resonated with the queen's hum. She responded with remarkable precision, adjusting her coils in ways that suggested comprehension. Then came a moment that startled him. One of her coils hovered closer than ever before, brushing lightly against his shoulder. It was deliberate, careful and completely unprompted. Aaron froze, feeling a surge of awareness. The queen was engaging with him, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. She had begun to acknowledge his presence in a deeply personal way. Over the following cycles, Aaron found that this attention extended to his routines. She anticipated his movements, shifted her coils in response to his gestures, and even began modifying her patterns to complement his experiments. It was as if she were learning from him while he learned from her, a dynamic, reciprocal connection that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about alien intelligence. The tension grew when human authorities proposed stricter oversight. Reports had noted changes in the hive's behavior, and some interpreted them as signs of instability. Aaron fought to explain that these changes were a natural consequence of the bond he had formed, emphasizing the importance of trust, patience, and understanding. During a meeting with the human delegation, Aaron presented his observations, detailed records of the queen's responses, analyses of her coil movements, and charts showing the hive's stabilization under his care. He spoke with calm authority, blending scientific rigor with personal experience. "She is not malfunctioning," he explained. "She is aware, she is learning, and she is responding to me in ways that demonstrate intelligence, comprehension, and even judgment. If we impose strict controls, we risk disrupting not only her behavior but the entire hive." After a tense pause, they agreed to allow him to continue with limited oversight, though they warned that further deviations could lead to intervention. Aaron returned to the chamber, exhausted but resolute. The queen's coils had shifted closer, her colors bright and steady. She seemed to sense the stress of the human authorities, and yet she also responded to his presence with reassurance. Aaron understood that their connection had become a stabilizing force, not only for him, but for the hive itself. As cycles passed, Aaron began to experiment with more complex forms of interaction. He introduced sequences of light and vibration that mimicked basic Earth patterns, arithmetic sequences, rhythms, and pulses that carried subtle variations. The queen responded with increasing sophistication, modifying her patterns in ways that suggested comprehension, creativity, and perhaps even playfulness. It was during one of these experiments that he noticed the hive itself reacting in nuanced ways. Drones adjusted their positions, signaling to one another, and the younger members began mirroring the queen's responses. Aaron realized with awe that his influence, mediated through the queen, was shaping the behavior of an entire alien society. The implications were staggering. Humans could connect with other species not just through technology, but through intelligence, empathy, and moral judgment. One evening, Aaron paused to observe her quietly. He had learned to interpret her subtle fluctuations as moods, and tonight she was calm, steady, yet attentive. He spoke softly, recounting a simple story from his childhood, a memory of Earth's forests and rivers. Her colors pulsed in response, brightening at moments of tension, dimming in moments of reflection. Aaron realized he had discovered something remarkable. The queen could engage with abstract human concepts, responding in a manner that suggested understanding and perhaps even appreciation. The realization left him both exhilarated and humbled. Humans were not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species in the galaxy, but their capacity for empathy, creativity, and moral courage allowed them to forge bonds that no algorithm or brute force could achieve. Aaron understood that this bond was fragile, delicate, and extraordinary. He settled near her central coil, feeling the hum of the chamber resonate with his own heartbeat. The queen's colors shifted subtly, matching his own emotions. For the first time, he sensed a mutual awareness that went beyond survival or instinct. This was recognition, trust, and perhaps something more profound, a connection that defied words and crossed the boundaries between species. And yet, Aaron knew challenges lay ahead. The hive's behavior would continue to evolve, human authorities would continue to watch, and the queen herself could change at any moment. He could not predict the future, but he understood one immutable truth. Humans were capable of navigating the unknown with intelligence, patience, and heart. In this chamber of living light, surrounded by coils, hums, and pulses, Aaron felt the full weight of human potential and the extraordinary responsibility of being the bridge between two very different worlds. He exhaled slowly, closing his eyes briefly, letting the connection settle. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges, new experiments, and perhaps new surprises. But tonight, he had learned a fundamental lesson, that human presence, thought, and compassion could alter the course of even the most alien and complex societies. And somewhere in the pulsing patterns of the Queen, he sensed a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition that he mattered in ways no one else could measure. The calm that had settled over the Queen's chamber was shattered one cycle by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed briefly, followed by a deep vibration that ran through the living walls of the palace. Aaron's heart jumped. He immediately knew something was wrong. The Queen's bioluminescence shifted violently, flaring in colors he had never seen before, a pattern that spoke of urgency, danger, and alertness all at once. He glanced at the monitors. Multiple hives across the system were reporting unusual activity. A rival species, the Krathos, had appeared at the edge of Valorian territory. The Krathos were known for their aggression, their ability to neutralize energy fields, and their disregard for other life forms. If they reached the Queen, the entire hive would be at risk. Aaron felt a surge of determination. He had learned that humans could not match the Krathos in raw power, but they had something far more unpredictable: ingenuity and adaptability. The Queen's coils tightened around her central chamber, responding instinctively to the threat. Aaron watched her carefully. She was aware of the danger, but her focus remained partly on him. It was as if she expected him to contribute, to guide the response in a way only he could. He realized quickly that this would be a test not only of his skill, but of the bond they had formed. He began analyzing the palace's defenses. The structure itself was alive, capable of altering energy fields, shifting walls, and coordinating drones. But the Krathos were clever. They had evolved countermeasures that could bypass standard Valorian defenses. Aaron understood that brute force would not be enough. He needed a plan, a strategy that combined human ingenuity with the Queen's natural abilities. He approached the central coil cautiously. "We need to act," he said softly. The Queen's colors pulsed in response, a slow, deliberate pattern. Aaron interpreted it as acknowledgement. She understood, and she was ready to follow his lead. He began issuing subtle commands through the patterns they had been sharing for cycles. Light sequences, gentle vibrations, and hums that mirrored her own pulses created a new kind of communication. Drones responded instantly, adjusting formations, sealing corridors, and preparing defensive positions. The Queen's coils moved with precision, amplifying the effects of his guidance. Together, they orchestrated a response that no human or alien could execute alone. The first wave of Krathos scouts arrived hours later. They moved with aggression, testing the outer defenses. Aaron watched closely, analyzing their tactics. They had advanced shields capable of neutralizing standard energy pulses, and their coordination was impressive. Yet the Queen's hive responded faster than expected. Drones adjusted positions in real time, creating barriers and channels that funneled the attackers into predictable paths. Aaron realized that the Krathos had underestimated the combination of human adaptability and Valorian intelligence. He adjusted patterns in the chamber, creating subtle light and vibration sequences that distracted the scouts. The Queen reacted instantly, shifting her coils to amplify the effect. The scouts faltered, their shields flickering as they struggled to interpret the signals. The situation intensified when a larger Krathos vessel appeared, bristling with weapons designed to penetrate energy shields. Human reinforcements had not yet arrived, leaving Aaron and the Queen to hold the line. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. One wrong move could mean the destruction of the hive, and perhaps the Queen herself. He took a deep breath. Logic alone would not win this battle. He needed to anticipate, improvise, and adapt, qualities that humans excelled at in ways the Krathos could not predict. He began altering the patterns more aggressively, introducing variations that disrupted the attacker's coordination. Drones shifted positions in complex formations, creating illusions of movement that the Krathos misread. The Queen's response was equally remarkable. Her coils moved in harmony with his adjustments, generating energy fields that amplified the effects of the patterns. She anticipated his intentions, often acting before he could complete a command. Aaron felt a surge of respect and awe. This was no longer a simple caretaker relationship. They were partners, combining intellect and instinct in a battle that neither could face alone. The first clash came when the Krathos vessel fired a concentrated energy beam. Drones moved to intercept, but the beam was too powerful for conventional defense. Aaron acted instinctively. He introduced a rapid sequence of vibrations and light pulses that caused the Queen to shift her coils at the perfect moment. The energy field dispersed, protecting the hive and redirecting the beam harmlessly into the surrounding space. The Krathos faltered, surprised by the unexpected maneuver. Aaron seized the opportunity. He issued a new sequence, one designed to exploit the attacker's over-reliance on predictable patterns. The Queen responded immediately, directing drones to manipulate the battlefield in ways that the Krathos could not comprehend. The result was a cascade of failures in their formations, giving the hive a critical advantage. Hours passed in a tense, continuous struggle. Aaron's mind raced with calculations, observations, and predictions, while the Queen mirrored his focus with unmatched precision. They moved as one, a human and an alien intelligence synchronized in purpose. Slowly, the tide of the battle shifted. The Krathos began to retreat, unable to adapt to the combination of human ingenuity and Valorian instinct. When the last of the attackers withdrew, the chamber was quiet once more. The Queen's colors dimmed to a calm, steady glow, though subtle pulses indicated lingering alertness. Aaron sank onto a nearby platform, exhausted but exhilarated. He had never felt more alive, more aware of the capabilities of his species. Humans were not the strongest or fastest, but their ability to think, adapt, and empathize had turned the tide of battle. The Queen's coils shifted gently toward him, a deliberate gesture of acknowledgement. Aaron reached out cautiously, letting his hand hover near her. Her bioluminescence flared briefly, a sign of recognition, and he felt a profound sense of connection. She had trusted him with the safety of her hive, and together they had succeeded. In the aftermath, Aaron surveyed the chamber. Minor damages had occurred, drones were recovering, and energy fields were stabilizing. He began repairs, working alongside the Queen in silent cooperation. Every adjustment he made, every observation, reinforced the extraordinary nature of their partnership. Humans could not match the Queen's raw power, but their presence, creativity, and moral courage could shape the outcome of events in ways no one anticipated. Later, as he rested near her central coil, Aaron reflected on the lessons of the day. The Queen's behavior had challenged every assumption he had held about alien intelligence. She was capable of judgment, strategic thinking, and perhaps even something akin to emotion. More importantly, she had recognized him as a partner, responding not just to his commands, but to his presence, his intentions, and his ingenuity. The human supervisors arrived the next cycle to evaluate the outcome. Aaron briefed them with calm authority, describing the strategies he and the Queen had employed. Some listened in awe, others with skepticism. Regardless, the results were undeniable. The hive had survived, the attackers had been repelled, and the Queen had maintained stability throughout. She responded to his guidance, one of the supervisors admitted, clearly impressed. It seems humans can offer something the hive itself cannot achieve independently. It was a profound reminder that humans could thrive in the most alien environments, not through dominance, but through creativity and understanding. As the chamber settled into quiet, Aaron and the Queen shared a moment of calm. He spoke softly, recounting a simple story from Earth, a tale of courage, cleverness, and trust. The Queen's colors shifted in response, brightening at moments of tension, dimming during reflection. It was a subtle form of communication, yet it carried profound meaning. She had not only understood, she had participated. Aaron felt a surge of pride and humility. Humanity had once again proven that its greatest strengths were not weapons or machines, but thought, heart, and adaptability. He realized that their bond with the Queen had become a force multiplier, amplifying both human and Valorian capabilities in ways neither species could achieve alone. The cycle ended with the hum of the chamber deep and steady, a soothing rhythm that resonated through every corner. Aaron leaned back, feeling the Queen's presence as palpably as his own heartbeat. He knew challenges would continue to come, threats that would test both him and the hive, but he also knew that they were stronger together. For the first time, Aaron allowed himself to hope. Not only for the survival of the hive, but for the possibility that humans could forge lasting bonds with alien species, creating alliances built on trust, ingenuity, and mutual respect. The Queen's recognition of him was more than companionship. It was a bridge between worlds, a testament to what humans could achieve when faced with the unknown. And somewhere deep within the pulsing patterns of her bioluminescence, Aaron felt certainty. The Queen had chosen him as a partner, not just a caretaker. Together they had faced danger, overcome it, and learned that the human mind, flexible, creative, and empathetic, was a force even the most advanced alien species could respect, and perhaps even depend upon. The calm that had settled after the Krathos attack was fragile. The Queen's chamber glowed softly, her colors shifting in gentle, rhythmic pulses. Aaron had spent countless cycles since the battle repairing systems, monitoring the hive, and reinforcing their bond. Yet he knew that peace was temporary. The galaxy was vast, and threats were never far from a species as powerful as the Valorians. One cycle, the warning systems began to hum with low intensity, a subtle but persistent vibration. Aaron recognized the pattern immediately. An unknown fleet had been detected at the outer rim of the sector. Sensors could not identify the ships, only their trajectory. The Queen's bioluminescence flared in rapid, sharp pulses. She was alert, but unlike previous encounters, there was a tension in her patterns he had not seen before, a mixture of caution and expectation. Aaron moved quickly, analyzing the situation. He had learned much in the past cycles. The Queen's reactions were precise, deliberate, and predictive. Her awareness allowed him to anticipate her choices. Together, they could strategize in ways that neither humans nor the Queen could achieve alone. He approached the central coil, speaking softly as he introduced a sequence of light and vibration patterns he had devised. The Queen responded instantly, her coils moving to align with his plan. Drones shifted into formations, defensive energy fields adjusted, and the hive began to stabilize against potential threats. Aaron marveled at their synchronization. It was no longer just caretaker and queen. They were partners, combining human adaptability with alien instinct, creating a force both intelligent and flexible. As the unknown fleet drew nearer, the chamber trembled slightly from the strain of coordinating defenses. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The Queen was powerful, her abilities vast, but she had relied on his guidance before. They had faced the Krathos and succeeded because of their cooperation, but the unknown was always different. Aaron had no prior experience with this fleet, no patterns to study. He would have to rely entirely on human ingenuity and trust in the bond they had built. He began issuing subtle sequences of light, vibration, and harmonic tones through the chamber. Each adjustment was a calculated attempt to manipulate the Queen's energy fields in ways that could confuse or deter the incoming fleet. The Queen responded immediately, extending her coils, shifting her body to amplify the effects. Drones and automated defenses followed the patterns, moving with precision guided by both instinct and design. The first encounter came when one of the unknown ships fired a beam of concentrated energy. The Queen reacted instinctively, her coils forming protective barriers, but the beam was unusually powerful, capable of overwhelming standard defenses. Aaron acted quickly. He introduced a rapid sequence of vibrations and light patterns, guiding the Queen to adjust her coils and redistribute the energy. The beam dispersed harmlessly, redirected into the void. The unknown fleet faltered, its attack uncoordinated and ineffective. Aaron seized the moment, adjusting the patterns again. The Queen followed seamlessly, her coils forming complex shapes, projecting energy fields that created illusions of multiple threats. Drones moved with deceptive precision, creating a dynamic battlefield that confused the enemy. Hours passed in tense synchronization. Aaron and the Queen worked in unison, adapting to the fleet's attempts to regroup. Each maneuver tested their understanding, their connection, and their creativity. The unknown ships were sophisticated, but they could not predict the improvisation, the adaptability, and the moral courage that humans brought to the battle. At one point, a sudden strike hit the outer perimeter of the hive. Aaron recognized the potential danger immediately. Without hesitation, he adjusted his sequences, guiding the Queen to redirect energy, shield the vulnerable areas, and stabilize the affected zones. Her colors shifted rapidly, reflecting both awareness and the intensity of their efforts. Drones responded to the new directives, moving with an unprecedented level of coordination. As the battle continued, Aaron realized something extraordinary. The Queen was not just following his guidance. She was anticipating it, predicting his adjustments, and complementing them in ways that magnified their effectiveness. He understood then that their partnership had reached a level few species could achieve. Human intelligence and creativity had become an extension of her instinctive abilities. Finally, the unknown fleet began to retreat, unable to adapt to the dynamic, unpredictable coordination of Aaron and the Queen. Their attacks became disorganized, weak, and ultimately ineffective. Aaron allowed himself a brief moment of relief. They had won. The hive was safe, the queen was unharmed, and humanity had proven that even in the face of unknown threats, their ingenuity and courage could make a difference. After the battle, the queen's colors shifted to a calm, steady glow. Her coils moved gently toward Aaron, almost brushing him with deliberate care. He reached out, allowing his hand to hover near hers. Her bioluminescence flared softly, a subtle acknowledgement of their shared effort, trust, and understanding. Aaron sat quietly for a long time, reflecting on what had happened. This was more than a victory. It was proof of something he had felt from the beginning, that humans, through empathy, creativity, and adaptability, could bridge gaps no technology or brute force could. He had entered this chamber as a caretaker, and now he was a partner, a strategist, and a participant in a relationship that transcended species. He spoke softly, recounting a simple story from Earth, a tale of courage, cleverness, and trust. The queen's colors shifted in response, brightening at moments of emphasis, dimming during reflection. Though he could not know the exact thoughts behind the patterns, he felt the resonance of comprehension, of connection. The queen had engaged with him not as a subject, but as a partner, and that recognition filled him with profound pride. Days passed, and the hive returned to normal rhythms. Drones moved with confidence, the palace stabilized, and energy fields hummed with steady precision. Aaron continued his observations, recording subtle changes in the queen's behavior. She had grown more attuned to him, responding not only to his instructions but to his presence, his intentions, and his emotional state. It was an unprecedented level of interaction. Human supervisors visited again, eager to evaluate the results of the latest encounter. Aaron briefed them calmly, detailing the strategies he and the queen had employed. He emphasized the importance of trust, creativity, and adaptability, highlighting how human presence had amplified the queen's abilities and stabilized the hive during unpredictable threats. One of the supervisors, a senior officer, nodded slowly. "It seems humans bring more than technology or protocols," he admitted. "Their thinking, their intuition, and their capacity to connect, it is a form of strength we cannot replicate mechanically." Humans had once again proven that their greatest asset was not firepower, not speed, not even advanced technology, but their hearts and minds, capable of insight, empathy, and courage in ways other species could not anticipate. Later, Aaron returned to the queen's chamber alone. He sat near her central coil, letting the gentle hum of the palace wash over him. Her colors shifted slowly, almost rhythmically, as if in quiet conversation. He reached out again, and her coil hovered near his hand, a silent gesture of acknowledgement, connection, and perhaps gratitude. He reflected on how far they had come. From the first tentative cycles, where communication was uncertain and fragile, to battles that tested both instinct and intellect, they had forged a partnership that transcended species. The queen had trusted him, relied on him, and allowed him to guide her in moments of extreme danger. In return, he had learned more about adaptability, courage, and empathy than any human training could provide. Aaron knew that the bond they had formed would influence not only the hive but the future of human-alien relations. Trust and cooperation, guided by intelligence and moral judgment, had achieved what brute force alone could not. Humans had proven that their greatest strength lay not in domination, but in the ability to understand, connect, and act with insight. The following cycles were calm. The queen's responses were deliberate but gentle, her bioluminescence flowing in patterns of trust and recognition. Aaron continued his work, introducing subtle innovations, observing her reactions, and refining their communication. Each interaction strengthened the bond, reinforcing the truth he had discovered. Human qualities, thought, courage, and empathy were not only valuable but extraordinary in the galaxy. He spoke softly to her one final time that cycle, recounting a story of Earth's forests, rivers, and mountains, of humans navigating challenges through cleverness and heart. The queen's colors shifted in response, brightening and dimming in a rhythm that mirrored the cadence of his words. Aaron realized then that she understood not only the story but the intent, the meaning behind it. The moment was profound. He had begun as a caretaker, tasked with observing and monitoring. He had become a participant, a guide, a partner in a bond that defied language, species, and expectation. The queen had allowed him into her consciousness, had trusted him with her hive, and had recognized the unique qualities of humanity. As the cycle drew to a close, Aaron felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had proven the potential of humans in the galaxy, not through aggression, not through dominance, but through ingenuity, courage, and empathy. The Queen's quiet acknowledgement was a reminder that humans could inspire, stabilize, and connect in ways that transcended species. He looked around the chamber, at the glowing walls, the softly pulsing coils, and the drones moving in precise harmony. Humanity had found its place here, not as conquerors, but as thinkers, as partners, as beings capable of bridging the impossible gaps between worlds. The Queen's trust and recognition were proof of what he had always believed, that humans could rise to challenges not by force alone, but by using the mind, the heart, and the courage to act wisely. Aaron allowed himself a final, quiet smile. The hive was safe, the Queen was calm, and their bond was stronger than ever. Together they had faced threats, defied expectations, and discovered the power of human potential in an alien world. And somewhere in the shimmering patterns of the Queen's bioluminescence, Aaron felt certainty. The journey had changed them both. He had entered the chamber as a caretaker. He would leave, eventually, as a bridge between species, a testament to the extraordinary strength of the human mind and spirit. In that living cathedral of light, filled with hums, pulses, and colors beyond imagination, Aaron realized the truth. Humans were not just survivors of the galaxy. They were remarkable, capable of connection, creativity, and courage that could shape the fate of entire civilizations. And the Queen, in her vast, luminous form, had already acknowledged it.